Tonight, another big blow for Scottish manufacturing. 400 jobs are at risk as the bus maker Alexander Dennis plans to stop building in Falkirk.
The industries that we had around here, the wrangler factories, the foundries, Menzies, everything, it's terrible.
Also making the headlines, the Chancellor pledges the largest settlement since devolution for Scotland as part of a major spending review. The First Minister carries out a mini reshuffle of his ministerial team. We're live at Holyrood. And in sport, the Scotland captain Sione Tuipulotu sits down exclusively with STV to reflect on his British and Irish Lions selection. I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. In another major blow to Scotland's industry, the bus maker Alexander Dennis has announced plans that could see up to 400 jobs lost. The company is set to shut its factory in Falkirk and halt production at Larbert, a move that comes weeks after the closure of the Grangemouth oil refinery. Tonight, there's real concern about what it means for workers and the wider community. A reporter, Caitlin Hutchison, is in Falkirk for us now. Caitlin, how much of an impact will this have on the area?
Well, John, this is a devastating blow for an area and community still reeling from the closure, of course, of Grangemouth oil refinery just down the road, where 430 people lost their jobs a mere 6 weeks ago. Now, another 400 jobs are at risk after the bus manufacturer Alexander Dennis announced its plans to shift all of its UK bus building operations to Scarborough in North Yorkshire. Now, the company says these are the changes that are needed in the face of a challenging and changing market, and they need to lower costs. But of course, for the workforce here, already downsized in recent years, this is an unsettling time indeed.
It's going to be absolutely murder. I mean, I just found out the new in the bookies, and it's honestly, I mean, the industries that we had around here, the wrangler factories, the foundries, Menzies, everything, it's terrible.
The last few years, there's been quite a few places closed down in Falkirk, so it's not that easy for hundreds of people all of a sudden just to get jobs.
I think it's just bad news after bad news, isn't it? So it's going to be a real shock, especially places that have been around for such a long time.
The jobs are needed here. I mean, we're now at a stage for central Scotland to becoming an industrial graveyard. Hard in the back of Grangemouth, we've now been hit with this. It's a right kick in the teeth to communities in central Scotland.
Now, the company's president, while not willing to go on camera, has told STV News that UK policy simply doesn't reward firms for using local supply chains like this one and protecting jobs at home. That, he says, has left them with no choice. But the Scottish Government insists it remains in active communication with them.
Well, we are fully engaged with Alexander Dennis. Scottish Enterprise are working with them to look at what else can be done to protect the jobs. But as Alexander Dennis identifies, it is that competitive imbalance. It's the fact that with UK procurement law, we cannot prioritise local content, and that is something that we're actively engaged with the UK Government to look at.
Well, as we've heard there, both the First Minister and Deputy First Minister insist they'll leave no stone unturned when it comes to protecting jobs and manufacturing in the Central Belt. But with the consultation period now underway and with production set to wind down as soon as current contracts are complete, many people here fear that this could mark the end of the line. John.
Caitlin, thank you. The Chancellor has pledged the largest settlement since devolution for Scotland as part of the UK Government's major spending review. Setting out her financial plans for the country, Rachel Reeves said the Labour government wants to unlock the investment in the economy. But the SNP says Scotland has been shortchanged. So, how will the spending review impact Scotland? It will mean a record £52 billion per year for spending north of the border by the year 2029. The UK's spending will increase by 1.5% overall, with the Chancellor stressing there will be no return to austerity. The key projects to benefit in Scotland will be the Acorn carbon capture project in Aberdeenshire and a £750 million supercomputer which will be based at Edinburgh University. Well, our Westminster correspondent Paris Goutsayanis joins us now. Paris, what was the Chancellor's message today?
Well, John, this was a dramatic change in tone from the Chancellor on the economy. In the year since Labour took office, they've talked constantly about the need for tough spending discipline to repair the public finances. In fact, that supercomputer for Edinburgh University, that was one of the first projects that Rachel Reeves axed just weeks into the job. Labour's slide in the polls ever since has been blamed on that gloominess, on the focus on tough decisions, like the one on winter fuel payments, which the Chancellor U-turned on just earlier this week. Today, the message couldn't have been more different.
We are renewing Britain. But I know that too many people in too many parts of our country are yet to feel it. This government's task, my chance, a task as Chancellor, and the purpose of this spending review is to change that, to ensure that renewal is felt in people's everyday lives, in their jobs and on their high streets.
For Scotland, that offer of renewal includes the investment in the Acorn carbon capture and storage project and the record cash sum for the Scottish Government overall. But in the detail of this announcement, there are winners and losers. The cash boost is higher in the final years of the Parliament than in the early years. What does that mean? Well, the UK Government has today prioritised the NHS and housing while squeezing other areas of public spending. The Scottish Government will face the same tough choices when it comes to setting its budget.
Scotland is being shortchanged, and that's in the Treasury's own figures, £1.1 billion that we could have had Scottish spending matched average UK departmental spending, and that's disappointing.
If you see the UK government's priorities, we're investing in health, we're investing in defence, and we're investing in growth in the economy, which is about skills and jobs. The Scottish Government, I think, and arguably have wasted the £4.9 billion extra they got this year. So the voters will be asking themselves the question come May next year, who do they trust to spend that extra money?
So, Paris, how is this extra spending being paid for?
Always a crucial question, John. Rachel Reeves says it's because the economy is improving and her tough choices are paying off. But there's a real question mark over that. Growth has been hit by global trade wars, unemployment is up, government borrowing is up, the cost of government borrowing on international money markets is up too. And there's still pressure for another expensive U-turn on cuts to disability payments. The Chancellor says she's sticking to her fiscal rules and won't raise taxes. The Conservatives say she can't keep that promise.
Paris at Westminster, thank you. Well, as we've heard, funding has been confirmed for a new supercomputer to be based at the University of Edinburgh, less than a year after the project was scrapped. The institution says it will vastly exceed the capacity of the current system. Lewis Mickey has more.
This is the existing UK national supercomputer based at the University of Edinburgh. It has the power of thousands of regular PCs, allowing for complex calculations, simulations and AI developments to be done at speed. Today, the UK government has pledged £750 million towards building a new supercomputer here, which will vastly exceed the capacity of this one.
It's a piece of key infrastructure for the whole of the UK. We believe that Edinburgh is the best place for this to be located, partly because of our experience in doing it with previous supercomputers, partly because we have the staff with the relevant expertise.
This plan, initially promised by the last government, was shelved by Labour in August, but now ministers are backing proposals.
It has huge implications potentially for design, for industry, for medicine. It's going to be phenomenal for people who are researching all of the questions of the future.
This current supercomputer can do 20 billion calculations per second. The next one is expected to be roughly 50 times as powerful, and that's going to mean big advancements in research around new medicines, the climate, and many other areas.
This is roughly around 250,000 laptops in this machine alone. And this device and this research platform is used by researchers all over the UK and the world, and for UK science is used for climate modelling, drug discovery and many other applications.
Work to fill this space begins immediately, and it's hoped the new supercomputer will be operational by 2027. Lewis Mickey, STV News, Midlothian.
The First Minister has carried out a mini reshuffle of his ministerial team. It was prompted by the return of Mary McAllen from maternity leave. She becomes Housing Secretary and will have to tackle the country's housing emergency. Our political editor Colin Mackay was outside Bute House for the reshuffle and is back at Holyrood now.
John, this was one of the most minimalist reshuffles I've seen. In fact, it was so small they weren't even going to bother with the usual ritual of ministers going in the front door of Bute House, but they relented, and in the end, first in was Mary McAllen. She's returning to work from maternity leave, straight back into Cabinet as Housing Secretary, recognising that the SNP simply can't allow itself to go into the election next year in the midst of a housing emergency. But you're also going to see a lot more of her because she kind of becomes the unofficial media minister. She'll be doing a lot of interviews over the next few weeks and months. She's seen by some in the SNP as a potential future party leader. Now, on the way in, she said that she had absolute confidence as John Swinney as leader just now. And I asked him how he responded to talk of plots against him after the SNP lost the Hamilton by-election to Labour last week.
Last Thursday in the Hamilton by-election, we made modest progress, not enough, not nearly enough. But that's on top of the fact that in recent months we've won 6 local authority by-elections and we have a government programme that is addressing the priorities and the concerns of the people of Scotland. What we've got to do now is deliver hope to people in Scotland through the realisation of our ambitions for Scotland in making Scotland the best that we can be, and we can only do that if Scotland's an independent country. So that message of independence, combined with the record of this government, is the foundations of what the SNP will put to the people.
Elsewhere, Gillian Martin stays on as Energy Secretary and Marie Todd becomes Drugs Minister following the death of Christina McKelvey, which led to that Hamilton by-election. Now, in response today, Labour and the Tories have both dusted off the oldest reshuffle cliché in the book, accusing the First Minister of reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Colin at Holyrood, thank you. Gala days and fun fairs are a key part of the Scottish summer, but the fairground community was badly hit by the COVID pandemic. This week, the Scottish COVID Inquiry is looking at how some groups were affected more than others during that period. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
They're getting ready under blue skies and hoping the good weather continues for tomorrow's Lanark-Lanimer Day. Members of the fairground community travel the country putting on their shows, but the lockdown beginning in March 2020 shut them down for the best part of 2 summers.
All our members just stopped earning money. That was their season kind of come to a halt in there. But it was frightening because of all the expense that you had for the insurance, for the trucks, the rides, and the staff you had that you had to come to terms with. So that was a really horrible feeling.
The COVID period and the lockdowns were a real roller coaster for all of us. But what the inquiry is now trying to get a handle on is just how some communities were disproportionately affected by the pandemic and everything that surrounded it. Are you grown up in?
Yes, all my life I've been in the fairground industry, yeah.
So that year, I guess having to do something different, it must have been quite a big culture shock.
Never had a job in my life, always was self-employed, and then went into Amazon. It was all about money and how much you can save kind of thing. There was no thought for us in the community, and it was a fight all the way through it.
Disabled people are another group who were often marginalised, and Fiona says that's worsened in the aftermath of the virus.
We all went back to normal so quickly, and that has led to a vast amount of post-viral disability and people who can't work anymore, and they're somehow surprised by it. That didn't need to happen.
So we need to do a bit of foresight and planning with these different groups in mind and make sure that the society as a whole is less racist, less ableist, less classist, etc., 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 and try and get to a point where we're not creating hostile environments to make sure that those people can come forward and go, hey, I need help here.
Those giving evidence this week will be hoping it leads to fairer treatment for everyone should the worst happen again. Gordon Cree, STV News, Lanark.
An 11-year-old girl is in hospital after she was hit by a car in Glasgow last night. Emergency crews were called to Firhill Road at 8:20 and the child was taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The road was closed for over 4 hours to allow investigations to take place. The future of a major development on the banks of Loch Lomond is in doubt after the Scottish Government decided to re-examine the proposals. The Public Finance Minister says plans for the Flamingoland resort raise issues of national significance due to its impact on the area. Under the £43.5 million development, Lomond Banks would see 2 hotels, 100 lodges and a water park on the site.
Conservation costs money. Very hard to get money for conservation. Here's a company delivering a tourism product. They will want to do conservation, of course they will. Work with them.
The idea of public land being handed over to something like Flamingoland or any other type of theme park, no, the development here has to be a development by the people, for the people.
The mum of an 18-year-old boy with autism says she was left shocked when she discovered what few options await him when he leaves school later this month. Angie Davis says higher education and employment opportunities for those with additional needs are so limited, she's now taken matters into her own hands. Tara Fitzpatrick met her to find out more.
Just like any 18-year-old at this time of year, Jack is getting ready to leave high school behind. But his future looks uncertain due to the limited options available for those on the autistic spectrum.
It is a worrying time. Also, this is our first time. Jack's our oldest child, so for us this is all new. I just feel that there's not the same opportunities that there is for neurotypical people, and again, it's just really unfair. I get when a young person's on the spectrum, it's such a wide spectrum. I can imagine it could be really difficult to tailor to very specific parts of the spectrum, but we found that nothing really suited Jack. While Jack does have some difficulties, he's definitely capable, and given the right support and something that he finds interesting, then he would definitely thrive.
Angie is now determined to create those opportunities for Jack and others like him by opening a new cafe in Western Bartonshire. Spectrum Coffee would be tailored to suit those with additional needs.
When you are serving coffees, you will be in here serving. It will be really good to be able to provide employment and hopefully training opportunities one day to people like Jack, and just to be able to offer a safe space for them to feel empowered and nurtured and happy. Jack, how would you feel working in here?
Happy.
Would you feel happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calls for better support for autistic people after school are being echoed around the country.
Well, sadly, there are only 3 in 10 autistic people in paid employment in Scotland, and that means that employers are missing out on a huge talent pool of really talented autistic people that could make a huge contribution to individual businesses, but also the wider society as well. And the reasons why that employment rate is so low, you know, there are lots of different reasons. There are inaccessible recruitment practices, there is stigma and discrimination, there's not always the support or knowledge or an understanding from employers.
So it's a bit less formal.
Angie hopes Spectrum Coffee can open its doors in the summer. Until then, Jack plans to enjoy his final weeks of school before a new chapter begins. Tara Fitzpatrick, STV News, Western Bartonshire.
Now, Ronnie has the sport.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Good evening. Scotland captain Sione Tuipulotu says the last 10 years have led him to the British and Irish Lions as he prepares to take on the land of his birth in the upcoming tour of Australia. The dream of becoming a Lion drove on the Glasgow Warriors star through recovery after surgery on his pectoral muscle earlier this year. And speaking exclusively to our reporter, Jamie Bothwick, Tuipulotu says he's passionate about making rugby history this summer.
Yeah, it's so exciting, probably obviously the most exciting time of my career, and the way the last 5 months has happened for me has been a bit of an emotional roller coaster, but for it to end with the Lions series, you know, obviously that's the way that I wanted it to end. It's a relief, but also just so happy, you know, and my partner and my son's already headed home, so, you know, and that's the cherry on top for me, that I get to go home and play in front of them, play in front of my mum and dad, and yeah, it's pretty special.
Did it almost make it easier through rehab, that you knew that this was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, to get back out there, to get yourself out there?
I'd say it made it 100 times harder, because you are obviously preparing for possible selection, but you don't know if you are going to get selected, and also you're not able to influence the situation on the pitch. It was hard for me to let go of the goal of making the Lions, because I'd put so much pressure on myself to make the team that I just couldn't stop thinking about it, to be honest.
Certainly, look at that, Tuipulotu, right on cue.
I think before I got hurt, it was the best thing ever for my rugby, the pressure to perform for a Lions jumper. And I think it just made every game important to me, if you know what I mean. For Glasgow, for Scotland, every single game was important to me, because I wanted to be a Lion, you know. And I enjoyed that pressure of this being a year that every part of your rugby was going to be scrutinised, and made me work harder. It made me probably be more disciplined off the pitch. It would have been a hard pill for me to swallow, but yeah, I'm just, like I said, really glad to be on the other side of that selection.
What are your memories of Lions tours, kind of growing up, and when you were kind of getting into rugby yourself?
It was massive, but I've realised it's even bigger since I've come here. And you know, my brothers were actually flag bearers in 2013, the last time the Lions were in Australia, and yeah, to think that I'm going back there now to play in one of those games is kind of crazy. And at that time when I was watching rugby, my heroes were playing for the guys in yellow. It's just funny how my journey's led me here, and how passionate I am now about playing for the Lions and writing my own story. And you know, we talk about the George North and on that tour, and the Jamie Roberts and stuff like that, and Jonathan Davies, and those are the names that come to mind for me. And now you get the opportunity to write your own name in history, and it's yeah, I'm really passionate about doing that. The last 10 years have led me to here, you know what I mean, as a professional, and I feel like I've been working the last 10 years to go over there and compete, you know, and fight for a test jersey, and learn, of course, but most importantly in my mind, compete.
Ryder Cup legend Colin Montgomerie says Scottish golf is in a great place as Robert McIntyre gets set to tee off in the US Open tomorrow. The 31-time European Tour winner says it's been too long since Scots have been competing at the top of the game, and is once again hosting the PGA Legends Championship at Trump International next month. Lucky for him, he's been speaking to Chris Harvey.
Colin, thank you so much for speaking to us here at
Not at all.
STV.
Yes.
Brilliant to be back, and I'm guessing you can't wait for September to come around.
Well, I can't really. You know, we've got two fantastic events on the Legends Tour. You know, the first is the Senior Open down at Sunningdale, which is where I live now, and that's one of the greatest inland courses. And then you come up here to Trump International, and this is a whole different feel. I mean, you can see by your camera here that the dunes are extreme, and it's a marvellous first-class facility, and it's an honour to host it again this year. And so as soon as I was asked, I ticked that box very quickly.
You get to be a golf fan now. You get to watch a bit of golf as well in your downtime. We have doom-mongered far too long in Scotland. I'm an optimist.
Yes.
I think Scottish golf is in a pretty good space at the moment.
We've
got some good golfers coming through. Obviously, we've got Bob going off in the US Open this weekend as well.
I think competition drives standards up, and I think that's what's happening with the Scottish players right now. We've had a bit of a lull the last, say, 15 years, possibly 10, 15 years. But now we're pulling out of that into something very special. And let's hope Bob McIntyre can do well at Oakmont, followed by the likes of the guys that I've just mentioned over at Portrush as well. They've all got into Portrush, and let's hope that a Scot can not just compete at the Open, but can contend at the Open Championship. It's been too long that a Scot has properly contended at an Open Championship.
Surely you've got another win in you.
God, well, if there is one, I'd love it to be here. How's that? You know, we can end on that and say, yes, it'd be lovely to contend, because that's what you enter for on a Saturday evening. If you're in their contention, great. And then if you're fortunate enough, because you've always had to have a little bit of fortune, and if you're lucky enough to win, fantastic. But hey, golf, as I mentioned earlier, frustrating, craziest game ever.
Fantastic, Colin. Pleasure to speak to you as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
STV Sport. Sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Back to do it all again tomorrow at the exact same time.
Look forward to that, Ronnie.
Yes, you are.
Thanks for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Cheers. Back at the usual time tonight. Sean, with the weather.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Very good evening to you. A big plume of warm air coming in from the Mediterranean. That's why the temperatures are getting a little bit higher now. 21 some spots today, even higher the next couple of days. Looks of the Highlands tomorrow could be up to about 23 degrees. But we will start to see an increase in showery activity, and some of those could be heavy and thundery at times. A plume of warm air and humid air coming in from the south. Quiet out there tonight though. Plenty of sunshine to end the day. Clear spells around during tonight, light winds as well. But despite the fact we've got clear spells, it is going to stay on that warmer side. I think probably parts of Ayrshire, around Glasgow, Renfrewshire, maybe Lanarkshire, temperatures staying about 14 to 16 degrees through much of the night. So yes, it will be on that warmer side. Now we have some rain out west. We don't need to worry about that until later on tomorrow. For most of us, it is dry, fine, plenty of sunshine throughout the day, but probably by about 3-4 o'clock, we'll start to see some of that rain coming into Ayrshire. Some of it will be on the heavy side too. Also parts of Argyll and Bute, but still warm out there, 22 to 23 degrees. So feeling very warm tomorrow, but we will see that heavy rain spreading to all parts through tomorrow evening. That leaves behind plenty of cloud and outbreaks of rain on Friday. The risk of some quite heavy thundery downpours in western areas, but still warm with those temperatures into the low 20s. Temperatures the high teens on Saturday, still thundery showers, especially in the south, drier further north. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And that is your STV News at 6. A lot more on the spending review with Rona on Scotland tonight. But from all of us here, thank you for watching. Have a good evening.